Hey guys, I just wanted to come on here and let you know my thoughts on the 2020 special that aired tonight or last night on the most magical story on Earth, 50 years of Walt Disney World. That's right. Yesterday, October 1st, marked 50 years officially since Walt Disney World opened, and believe it or not, it actually marks 39 years since EPCOT opened, and next year will mark 40. So Walt Disney World is going to have, according to what they said, an 18-month long celebration beginning this month, yesterday, and going all the way through next October 1st, which will mark 40 years of EPCOT, and then 6 more months after that. So you're looking at a whole year between now and next October, and then you add November 2022, December 2022, that's 14 months, and then you add January 2023, then you add February 2023, then you add March. You're looking at them concluding this in April of 2023. Yeah. And the reason obviously they're doing this is they want to give anybody out there that has yet to come to Disney World and experience it, those that may have, like myself, gone to Disneyland maybe once for me, multiple times for my sisters and even my mom, and anybody else that's gone to the other Disney parks around the world, like Shanghai Disney, Tokyo Disney, Disneyland Paris. It's to give them all an opportunity to finally show up at Disney World and experience what Walt had put into motion back, believe it or not, as early as 1961-62. And this all started because they showed a lot of stuff here. They showed some footage that we'd seen before, and as well as talked about some stuff we already heard before, like how he put into motion ideas, not just to continuously grow Disneyland, but to basically expand elsewhere. And it was basically during events like the World Fair that he started to really come up with what they called at the time Project X, because that project needed a locale, and they looked everywhere. From what they showed and talked about, they looked in places like Niagara Falls, they looked in New Jersey, they looked in Texas, they looked in St. Louis, they looked at, in some of the more viable markets you think a place like, a Disney theme park could, be located at or built upon. And they decided, Walt at least, looking at some land, in Central Florida, said, that's the place. That's basically where we're going to do Project X, and we're going to make it a reality. And like I said, they showed some archival footage of how the land looked originally before it got purchased. They showed Walt actually walking on the land after they had purchased it to get a feel of exactly what was going to be set into motion. And of course they showed the beginning or the end. I think it was the ending of what they called the EPCOT film, because Walt wanted to basically let everybody know what they were doing, in the Florida area. And he even said Disney World, basically gave it the name during that film called of Disney World, of exactly, basically give people an idea of what was going into motion. They even talked about how EPCOT was supposed to be originally from what Walt wanted to do, was supposed to originally be like a community. Like, it was supposed to be like a small, I guess you could say, close-knitted, Disney-oriented community, town, whatever. Basically, the idea, basically what I get from it is he originally wanted a place for people to go and, through and flow, if you will, and not just, see each other, and enjoy the sights and everything, but also to live. That was kind of the idea, I think, think he would. Well, basically, that was the original idea. I think he wanted to go for, was to make it an actual community where people, enjoyed, what Disney was, but also had a place to live and stuff. But, that really, but as we find out, that vision didn't necessarily come to pass. I mean, we find out that they did keep some of that vision, but they also made it to where, okay, instead of having a place where people would live, we're going to have a place where people can visit and feel like they're in another part of the world, a world where they could actually live in reality if they chose to. And they just went and touched upon a lot of stuff here. They showed footage of, Disney and all of them coming to Orlando to do the press conference to announce what they were doing, on the verge of doing anyway. So they did. So they basically touched upon all of that as well. They touched upon how, even during Disneyland first initial years, to, I guess, help celebrate the success that would be Mary Poppins, Disney himself took Julia Andrews around the park, basically by himself. Basically, he and Julia had the park to themselves. That being Disneyland. So, anyway, long story short, they, basically tell the history of, how Walt, came to be a bit, and how, Disneyland was like the first, was the first starting point of what would be, and and basically they both kind of quoted what Walt said, and Walt even said, and they even show Walt saying it himself, that, places like Disney World and Disneyland and places at EPCOT would not be fully completed, because even though it would seem like it's completed, it's still growing, it's still being added on to. And obviously this is a good example. This special basically, the people they talk to kind of basically, exemplify and agree with Walt is saying, because when you look at a place like Disney World, you look at a place like EPCOT, you look at a place like Disneyland and all the other parks, Disney parks around the world, and you think to yourself, well, it's done. This thing has to be complete and finished, right? Nope. It continuously grows and grows. And like I said, they went from point A to point B, in this special presentation. They talked about how even on his deathbed, Walt was still planning things out. It's like he had maps or something like that, in his possession or something. How he would look up at the ceiling, the tile ceiling, and kind of map out how Disney World would be and everything. So yeah, even days, even on his deathbed, days into his basically into his final days, he was still planning out what Disney World would be like. And so they talk about how afterwards they agreed, all of them, that they're going to go forward with it. That they called that basically they were basically the press at first came to them and said, okay, what's the future of the company? What's going to happen? Mostly what's going to be the future of the Florida project. And they basically said it was Roy, Walt's older brother, that basically said, well, can we do he basically asked the guy, they talked to the guy that was, that was there when they started groundwork on it, and who was there with Walt when Walt started to plan it. Basically he says that Roy asked him, hey, do you think we can do it? And the guy's like, yeah, we can. And that's all Roy needed to hear. And he basically got in contact with the people he needed and said, let's do this. They even talk about how they were building and everything, that one of the things they put to remind them of the targeted date to get Walt Disney World open being October 1st, 1971. That they even said they had to hire in their own crew into the, I think midway or something like that through the project, through the building process, to try to meet that deadline. And thankfully, with their own crew and the help of the crew they hired on previously, from what I heard, from what I saw and understood, they were able to meet that deadline of October 1st. Now, even though it was great that they met the deadline, they said that the bitterness about it was, several months later, Roy passed away. So basically, seeing his younger brother's vision of Walt Disney World in Central Florida come to pass, basically, even though he was there to dedicate that in his, in his brother's memory and in the family's name, it would be the last thing he would do because he would pass away a few months later. And, and speaking of Walt, they even talk about how, Walt was known to be an avid smoker, typical for people in that generation, as they called it. And they said that he and they said basically that he came back one day from, I think it may have been the trip in Orlando or somewhere, or from the office, and he said he didn't feel good, so he was going to check in the hospital, see what was going on. And that's when they discovered these spots on his liver, and they basically told him what it was and what the diagnosis was, and the timetable of, hey, he's only got maybe a few months to 2 years. Little did they know that had basically that condition, that disease had rapidly spread more so than they thought, and it wasn't a few months or a few years, it was a few weeks. And then, like I said, Walt, even on his deathbed, was planning out how Disney World would be. So anyway, they ran the gamut on that. They basically showed how they dedicated Walt Disney World the same way via television, the same way that Walt did for Disneyland with the Dateline Disney on ABC. And, they showed that they did the same thing here. They did, and instead of like Roy hosting or somebody else, they got they did get somebody else, is what I'm trying to say. But instead of like Roy doing what Walt did and hosting it himself, with the help of the news crew, instead they had Julia Andrews come in and do the hosting duties, and she sang a couple of notable songs at that time to help really ring in Walt Disney World's existence as a theme park. And then they decided, okay, what else can we do to help continue Walt's vision? And this was even after Roy passed. They're like, what can we do to continue Walt's vision? And they agreed, and they made the announcement. And again, they showed archival footage of this in a press conference in 1975, the year my oldest sister was born, that they planned by 1982 to open up EPCOT, basically open it up as Walt wanted. But as I mentioned earlier, and as they said in the special, it wasn't going to be exactly as originally planned, but it was going to be close to it. So instead of being like a tight-knit community kind of area and all that, where people may, be able to just go through and flow and maybe live, it would be its own section of Walt Disney World itself, its own theme park. So they talk about that. They talk about meeting the deadline in '82 and opening it up with a celebration where they had a bunch of people like Marie Osmond and a few others, Danny Kaye, hosting and singing the event. They showed they had a young Drew Barrymore fresh off E.T. They just told the whole story on it. And again, they just went from, like I said earlier, they went from point A to point B, and they told us stuff. They showed us stuff we didn't know, some stuff we knew, and some stuff we didn't know, which was pretty cool. One of the highlights for me, honestly, was when they got to a section of the special where they talked about the sitcoms that would film on location at Walt Disney World. And at times I thought some of them were Disneyland, and I think some of them were. I think maybe they did both, some of these sitcoms, but they wanted to primarily, because this is 50 years of Walt Disney World, they primarily wanted to focus on Disney World. But I think, again, they did some, and these are sitcoms like Full House, Family Matters, Step by Step, you name it. I've got a feeling, they also did, I also believe they did Disneyland as well, but like I said, they were focused on Disney World because of the 50th anniversary. And they talked to the cast. They talked to some of the cast members. Like with Full House, they talked to Candace Cameron Bure, Kirk Cameron's sister. They talked to John Stamos, and they both said it was a great experience. And it was basically that. Well, what I'm trying to say is, and it's late while I'm doing this. I do apologize. But they basically said it was a great experience for them. And Candace said that as soon as they heard they were going to Disney World to film on location, everybody got excited and everybody agreed to make it a family affair, not just, you know, with the cast and the crew, but with the entire families. So Candace brought her family. I think she brought Kurt with her as well, her brother. Bob, you know, Saget, you know, brought his family. Dave Coulier brought his. John Stamos brought his. And John even said it was one of the last, you know, big family, you know, gatherings and, you know, get-togethers that he would have with his father, you know, I guess before he passed away. So, and you can kind of hear in his voice a little bit, John said, is he got a little bit emotional. But he said it was one of the, you know, one of the best moments they had. And he said one of the, you know, well, with his real family and everything, he and Candace said it was some of the best moments they had. And then he said probably the best moment, as far as like filming and everything, was performing in front of the castle. And, you know, that's when he, I think, did Forever, and I think that's when he did When You Wish Upon a Star. So, yeah, they showed that, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see that. And then they talk about how other shows followed suit, like Family Matters followed suit, then Step by Step, and then they into the more modern sitcoms like The Middle followed suit, and then, of course, recently Blackish followed suit, and now the door is open as to who could be next. You know, I mean, I don't know if they could do the Goldbergs. They'd have to go to They'd have to go to Disney World and say, "Hey, can we transport this back into 1985 or 1986 or something?" You know, they'll have to do. You know, if they do it with the Goldbergs, they're gonna have to, you know, use the magic of Disney to turn back time. If you know what I mean. But yeah, it was nice to see that, and you know, they showed off the evolution of how the evolution of attractions on how, you know, like what Walt said, like basically going by what Walt said, you know, that Epcot and Disney World and even Disneyland is still growing. It's still being built. It's never going to be completed. And they showed a lot of attractions that they brought in there. They talked about how Star Tours, you know, was created, and they even got George Lucas to talk to, and Lucas is like, yeah, I'm cool with that as long as I can be involved in it, because he wanted to make sure, you know, it treated Star Wars, which was under the Lucasfilm ownership at that time. He wanted to make sure, you know, it was treated with respect, and you know, they obviously treated it with the respect it deserved. And he was there in 1987 for the opening. I'm surprised they didn't talk about Captain EO. That would have been something nice to really touch upon, because that was both in Walt Disney World and Disneyland. And, you know, I don't know if it's still there at Disneyland or not, but I can tell you, if I ever go back to Disneyland or if I ever go to Disney World, I'm going to see Captain EO. But yeah, they touched upon Star Wars and, you know, everything like, you know, and, you know, rides like that. And then of course they talk about like I said, the evolution of, you know, some rides, where some of the rides that they would bring into the park was, you know, not even at the time Disney movies, basically were not at the time based on Disney movies, like, you know, Pandora, based on Avatar. And I can tell you this honestly, you watch this special on a 4K or 8K television, and they show you that ride on Pandora, not just, you know, walking around the Pandora portion of the theme park, but when you walk around, when they showed the ride and going like this and that, oh my gosh. Whew. I was sitting in this seat here, and I was like, whoa. That shows you how detailed 4K, especially with the high dynamic range HDR picture mode, can get. But yeah, it felt like, whoa. I was like, okay, now I understand what my brother-in-law felt like when he was watching Maleficent, the second Maleficent movie, on 4K. It was like, because he said when he saw that because my sister said that when they saw that, he was getting a little like, ooh, you know, my second older sister, that is, like, ooh, you know, because it's just going up and down. And that's kind of like how I was feeling. I was like, whoa, you know, and this is just them showing what the ride is like. So they showed that. They talked about the story about how Animal Kingdom came about, how Sabrina the Teenage Witch, when they filmed on location there, filmed weeks, I think a week or a few weeks before it officially opened. They talked to Melissa Joan Hart about that. Yeah, it was, it was just, like I said, it was just a great special where we got to learn about things we knew and didn't know about, or more specifically didn't know about, which was kind of cool. And then, of course, with any one of these specials, they showed off some of the upcoming rides they got planned for Disney World and obviously Disneyland, because you can't leave that out. And they talked about the new Guardians of the Galaxy indoor roller coaster that's going to be part of the EPCOT area, World of Discovery. They talked about the new Galaxy Cruiser or something like that from Star Wars, where basically it's going to be an immersive hotel experience. You know how Disney sometimes likes to get innovative with the hotels at times? Well, they basically said that this one's going to be not just a regular hotel, but it's going to be an immersive one where you take part in the adventure. You take part in the action. You interact with the characters from Star Wars. Some you know and some you don't know. And that whatever you decide to do, your story will pan out a certain way or a different way or whatever. So that was kind of cool. And yeah, it was just this. What I'm trying to say is, it was. It was just fun to see these upcoming rides. They even showed like certain areas of EPCOT that they're going to change into World of Discovery, World of this, World of that, like World of Showcase, I think, or something like that. They even showed off the new fireworks display they're going to have around EPCOT called Harmonic or Harmonicize or something like that. So that was nice. And then after that, not just after that, but in between the special, they had performances to really help dedicate Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary. And they were pretty good. They started out with Christina Aguilera, who did, I think, a song from Cinderella, A Dream is a Wish That Your Heart Makes. And then she did her reflection song from Mulan. Then they had the Orlando Symphony Orchestra, and the conductor, I can't think of his name, but he's obviously a well-renowned conductor, doing instrumental versions of all the classic Disney songs, like Bare Necessities, Whole New World, Be Our Guest, Let It Go, which was really nice. And then they had this girl called Haley Bailey or something, or Haley Daly, and she's who was part of the Grammy group, part of a Grammy-nominated group, Kayla and Haley or something, I can't remember. As well as she's part of Grownish on Freeform. And you talk about a multi-talented girl, or a multi-talented performer. The way she sang here was magnificent, and she sang Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Not the version that Elton John, is known for singing, the pop version. She sang the version straight from the movie, which I thought was kind of cool. I thought it was actually kind of cool that she did that. But overall, the special, which was presented by 2020, hosted by Whoopi Goldberg, I thought was really good. I mean, they talked to a lot of people that were there when Disney himself was planning this out, and were there when Roy dedicated it for Disney. They talked to Michael Eisner. They talked to him, and how they even said Michael reminded them a little bit of Walt himself, because they always thought, like, okay, what can we do next? What can we do to, go to the next level? Basically get more innovative and inventive and creative. So they talked about that. They talked to Bob Iger, and Bob Chapek. Both Bobs here. And Bob, according to the title that he has, Bob Iger is executive chairman, and Chapek is CEO. So, you gotta wonder who has the higher power. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. But anyway, I mean, there's no wonder there's some kind of division, but it didn't look like there was any division between them. I'll get into that in a moment. But anyway, they talked to a lot of people. Like I said, they talked to some of the cast members of Full House. They talked to Anthony Anderson, and I can't think of her name. The girl that plays the daughter on there, or one of the daughters on Blackish. They talked to her. They talked about how Anthony, when they would film at times, during breaks, I guess, of filming, he would go off and greet guests that were there just to put a smile on the face and stuff. They talked to them. They They gave examples. And here's the thing, even when they got to that section where they talked about the sitcoms filming on location at Disney World, they would talk about other sitcoms doing road trips and how that would always be like a big deal. Like they started with Lucy going from New York to Hollywood. They talked about the Brady Bunch going from basically their home to Hawaii. And I think all of us remember that. And then they even talked about how Magnum P.I., an episode of Magnum P.I., inspired the dragon character that was created during EPCOT's creation called Figment. They talked about how an episode of Magnum P.I. inspired that. Yeah. They talk about that, and it was like, oh, that was... And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Magnum P.I., Magnum P.I., that show they've tried to remake recently. Oh, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. The original, show inspired Figment. So the Figment dragon out of EPCOT. So yeah, they touched upon a lot of things, like I said. Some things we all knew about, and some things we didn't. I just dropped something there. So it was really cool. It was really cool to see. And if you haven't seen the special yet, I highly recommend checking it out. You can probably find it on Disney Plus, and I'm sure it's going to be going up there real soon. And you can also find it on demand on ABC. So I highly recommend checking it out. I think if you're a true Disney fan, you'll really, really enjoy it. And that's all I can say on it, guys. So let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you've seen it and what were your thoughts about the whole experience watching it. Comment down below if you like. Oh, and by the way, before I do go, I was mentioning about the whole Bob situation and how it didn't seem like there was any dissension, because that's what's been reported a lot. Well, the night before, here on YouTube, the Disney Parks channel had a presentation hosted by one of the ladies from Good Morning America. And obviously you can tell they still have to work out some kinks when they do these live presentations on YouTube, whether it's Disney Parks YouTube channel or something else. Because when they went off the air, you can hear her saying like, okay, good job guys, whatever, whoopee, things like that. But they had a presentation, a special presentation the night before the first. It was live and everything, where they introduced, and it was basically to introduce us to the new the new nighttime castle spectacular called Enchantment, Disney Enchantment. And basically it was a new fireworks display. And if you've seen any kind of fireworks display at Disney World, Disneyland, Tokyo, Shanghai, Paris, you kind of have an idea of what you're going to get. But this one, I can tell you honestly, right now outdid all of them. And I don't know if they're going to be able to keep this up for the next 18 months. I'm pretty sure they will. But it was really cool, because they went from... Because one thing that they always do with these kind of things, especially like, let's say with Wonderful World of Color or whatever, is and lately with the castles, is they always show the images on the castle. They always show images from the movie or images they've made up for the special presentation, like Enchantment. And I'll tell you honestly, the Enchantment portion that they showed the night before on the Disney parks, I thought was great. They had Christina Aguilera there, which was a nice surprise. And, getting back to both Bobs being there, they stood side by side. And, I know people are going to say, oh, they only did that to make themselves look good, make it look like nothing's going on. And honestly, if that is true, then they did a heck of a job, because I didn't see any dissension. I didn't see any tension or anything. You can kind of tell that there was like a little bit of uneasiness between them, but they quickly kind of hid that or put that away or put that to the side, and focused more on dedicating what this that event on the last day of September was about, and that is the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World. So again, I didn't really notice much. And then, like I said, after they did that, we got the presentation, the fireworks, and again showing the images from movies, and then images they made exclusively for the Disney Enchantment. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good, and I got to give them a lot of credit for that. I really do. But yeah, I saw that, and then when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, I wonder you know, are they planning to show something like maybe the next night? And lo and behold, I go to my guide on my television, on my cable box, to look on ABC, and sure enough, it showed that last night, when I looked this up on Thursday night, sure enough, it showed that on the 1st of October, they're going to show a special presentation presented by 2020 to celebrate 50 years of Walt Disney World by telling the story of how it came about. And like I said, in this special, they went from point A to point B, did a great job. And again, I highly recommend checking it out if you're interested and if you're a true Disney fan. So that's really all I can say, guys, on it right now. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. If you have seen it, what did you think of it? You know, how do you feel about it? Have you guys ever been to Disney World yourself? What did you think of it when you first went? And will you try to go during the next 18 months to help celebrate 50 years of, you know, Walt Disney World itself? And then, of course, 40 years of EPCOT officially next year on October 1st of 2022. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Let me know if you plan to do that. Comment live chat during the premiere is what I'm trying to say. Give us your thoughts, as well as check me out at BW Rosas Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations, except for Pandora. Got two new podcasts put up there. They are basically audio versions of videos I did here on my channel. One is the Dark Side of the Ring review of FMW, Onita's FMW, and the other is the live stream I did talking about the Sonic and Sally relationship and why people support it. So check out BW Rosas Discussions on all your favorite audio podcast locations except for Pandora. Check me out at BW Rosas on Vimeo as well as check me out at Patreon at BW Rosas Brian Walmer, if you will, to support me there. But until then, guys, God bless, take care, and I am out. But I recommend check this special out if you haven't.